The midnight encounter. Marcus Rivera wiped the grease from his hands as he locked up the garage for the night. The small town of Cedar Falls had been quiet for weeks, and his auto repair shop barely saw enough customers to keep the lights on. But tonight felt different. The air hummed with an energy he couldn't place, and the stars seemed unusually bright against the velvet sky. He decided to take the long way home through Pine Ridge Trail, a winding path that cut through the dense forests surrounding the town. Marcus had always found peace in these woods, where the only sounds were his footsteps and the gentle whisper of wind through the trees. But as he walked deeper into the darkness, that peaceful silence was shattered by a brilliant flash of light that turned night into day. The explosion that followed knocked him to his knees. Trees groaned and cracked as something massive crashed through the canopy above, sending branches and debris raining down around him. The earth trembled beneath him, and the acrid smell of burning metal filled his nostrils. When the chaos finally stopped, an eerie orange glow flickered through the trees ahead. Curiosity overrode caution as Marcus pushed through the undergrowth toward the source of the light. What he found defied every rational thought in his mind. A sleek, crystalline vessel lay broken among the twisted remains of ancient oaks. Its hull pulsed with dying bioluminescent veins, like a wounded heart struggling to beat. Steam rose from its surface, and strange symbols flickered along its edges. Before fading into darkness, movement caught his eye. A figure emerged from the wreckage with fluid grace, despite the obvious pain in her movements. She was tall and elegant, her skin bearing a subtle, iridescent quality that caught the moonlight like pearl dust. Her hair flowed like liquid silver down her back, and when she looked directly at him, Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. Her eyes held the depth of distant galaxies, swirling with colors he had no names for. There was intelligence there, and desperation, and something else that made his heart race in ways he couldn't understand. She studied him for a long moment, as if measuring his soul against some invisible standard. "Human," she said, her voice carrying musical tones that seemed to resonate in his chest. Marcus tried to speak, but found his voice trapped somewhere between his lungs and his lips. She stepped closer, moving with predatory grace that should have terrified him. Instead, he felt drawn to her, like a moth to flame. Her presence filled his senses completely, overwhelming and intoxicating. "My name is Celeste," she continued, each word carefully pronounced as if she were tasting a foreign language. "My ship is dying, and my enemies are close. I have traveled farther than you can imagine to reach this world, to reach you." "Me," Marcus finally managed to croak out. "Why me? I'm nobody special." Celeste smiled then, and it was like watching a star being born. "You're more special than you know, Marcus Rivera. Your species carries something mine has lost, something we desperately need to survive." The way she said his name sent shivers down his spine. How could she possibly know who he was? But before he could ask, she continued speaking, her voice growing more urgent. "My people are dying. We have searched the cosmos for centuries, looking for the key to our salvation. And now, finally, we have found it in humanity. But the hunters who pursue me will not allow this knowledge to survive." As if summoned by her words, distant howls echoed through the forest. Celeste's entire body tensed, her skin beginning to glow with soft bioluminescence. "They have found my trail. We must go now." Marcus felt himself nodding before his brain caught up with the decision. Nothing about this made sense, but something deep inside him, some primal instinct, told him that this woman needed his protection, and perhaps he needed her to sanctuary in the shadows. Marcus led Celeste through the winding deer paths he had known since childhood, his hand occasionally brushing hers as he helped her over fallen logs and rocky outcroppings. Each touch sent electricity racing through his nerves, and he found himself stealing glances at her ethereal beauty whenever he thought she wasn't looking. His grandfather's old hunting cabin sat hidden in a grove of towering pines, miles from the nearest road. Marcus had kept it maintained over the years, though he rarely used it. Now, as they approached the weathered wooden structure, it felt like sanctuary. "This should buy us some time," he said, fishing the key from beneath a loose floorboard on the porch. "No one knows about this place except me." Celeste stepped inside, her glowing eyes adjusting to the dim interior. She moved through the small space like liquid light, her fingers trailing over the rough-hewn furniture and simple amenities. "Your dwelling is modest but warm," she observed. "There is love in these walls." Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks. "It was my grandfather's. He taught me to hunt and fish here when I was a kid," said a man needed a place to think clearly away from the noise of the world. "Wise words," Celeste replied, settling gracefully into the old rocking chair by the cold fireplace. "My people once valued such solitude before we became consumed by our dying." Marcus busied himself building a fire, hyper-aware of her presence behind him. "Tell me about your people," he said, needing the distraction of conversation to keep his racing thoughts under control. Celeste was quiet for so long he wondered if she had heard him. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of ages. "Call ourselves the Etherne. Once we were beings of pure energy and light, capable of traveling between stars at will, but our pursuit of perfection led us down a dark path. Tried to transcend our physical forms entirely, and in doing so, we lost something essential." The fire crackled to life, casting dancing shadows across her face. Marcus turned to look at her, captivated by the pain he saw in her expression. "What did you lose?" "The ability to create new life. Our children are born weaker with each generation, if they are born at all. In 50 of your years there may be none of us left." She looked directly at him, and he felt like she could see into his very soul. "But humanity possesses what we lack. Your emotions, your passion, your incredible capacity for love and sacrifice. These things create a resonance that could restore what we have lost." Marcus sank into the chair across from her, his mind reeling. "And the hunters?" Celeste's skin flared briefly with angry light. "A faction of my people who believe we should take what we need by force. They would harvest humans like livestock, draining your essence to fuel their own continued existence. They do not understand that such methods would destroy the very thing they seek to claim." "But you're different," Marcus said, surprised by the certainty in his own voice. "Yes," she whispered, leaning forward until their knees almost touched. "I believe the answer lies not in taking, but in willing partnership, in connection freely given." The air between them seemed to shimmer with possibility. Marcus found himself leaning closer, drawn by forces he didn't fully understand. Celeste's hand rose slowly to touch his face, her cool fingers tracing the line of his jaw with reverent gentleness. "You feel it too," she breathed, her voice barely audible above the crackling fire. "The pull between us. It is not coincidence. That brought us together, Marcus. It is destiny." Her touch ignited something primal within him. Without conscious thought, he covered her hand with his own, pressing her palm more firmly against his cheek. Her skin grew warmer at the contact, and he could swear he felt energy flowing between them like an electric current. Celeste whispered her name like a prayer. She moved closer, rising from her chair to kneel beside his. Her other hand came up to frame his face, and she studied him with wonder in her galactic eyes. "In all my travels across the void, I have never felt anything like this. You make my very essence sing." Marcus felt himself drowning in her presence, in the impossible beauty of her face inches from his own. "I don't understand what's happening to me," he admitted. "One should be terrified, but instead, you feel complete," she finished for him, her lips curving in a soft smile. "As do I." The distance between them disappeared as naturally as breathing. Their lips met in a kiss that sent shockwaves through both their beings, skin erupting in patterns of bioluminescent fire that painted the cabin walls in shifting rainbow hues. Hearts across the stars' dawn crept through the cabin windows, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. Marcus woke to find Celeste curled against his chest, her silver hair spilled across his bare skin like moonbeams. Their connection had deepened beyond anything he had ever imagined possible. She stirred as consciousness returned, her luminescent eyes opening to meet his gaze. "Good morning, my heart," she murmured, her voice carrying new harmonics that resonated through his bones. "Did you just call me your heart?" Marcus asked, his fingers tracing lazy patterns along her shoulder. Her skin responded to his touch with gentle waves of light, like bioluminescent algae disturbed by ocean currents. "In my language, the word is Astralis," she explained, pressing soft kisses along his collarbone. "It means the star that guides you home. You are my Estrellas, Marcus. You have become the center of my universe." He pulled her closer, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him. "I never believed in fate before," he admitted. "But this us, it feels like something that was always meant to happen." Celeste raised herself up on her elbow, studying his face with an expression of wonder. "Felt your essence merge with mine. For the first time in centuries, I felt truly alive." "You have given me something I thought lost forever. What do you mean?" Marcus asked, though part of him already understood. Their lovemaking had been unlike anything he had ever experienced, transcendent and cosmic in a way that defied description. "Hope," Celeste said simply. "And more than that. I can feel it growing within me already, a new kind of energy born from our union. This is how my people can be saved, not through force or theft, but through love freely shared." Marcus was about to respond when a sound from outside froze them both. Footsteps, multiple sets, moving with predatory stealth around the cabin's perimeter. Celeste's skin immediately dimmed to nearly human tones, though her eyes retained their otherworldly glow. "They have found us," she whispered, her body tensing like a coiled spring. Through the window, Marcus caught glimpses of tall figures moving through the trees. They wore form-fitting armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and their faces were hidden behind masks that resembled angular skulls. Even at a distance, he could feel the malevolent energy radiating from them. "How many?" he breathed, reaching for the hunting rifle his grandfather had left in the cabin. "6, led by one called Corvain," Celeste replied, her voice tight with fear and anger. "He is my cousin, twisted by centuries of witnessing our slow extinction. He believes that any means justify our survival, even genocide." The front door exploded inward without warning, torn from its hinges by unseen force. The lead figure stepped through the wreckage, removing his skull-like mask to reveal features that were both beautiful and terrible. He shared Celeste's ethereal bone structure, but where her presence radiated warmth and light, his emanated cold hunger. "Cousin Corvain said," his voice like winter wind through dead branches, "it led us quite a chase. I had hoped to find you before you contaminated yourself with this primitive creature." Celeste stood slowly, placing herself between Corvain and Marcus. Despite her nakedness, she carried herself with regal dignity. "I have not contaminated myself, Corvain. I have found salvation." Corvain's laugh was bitter and sharp. "Salvation? You spread your legs for a monkey and call it salvation? You disgrace our entire lineage?" Marcus felt rage build in his chest at the crude words, but Celeste's hand on his arm kept him from doing something fatal. Her touch conveyed a silent message. "Wait, trust me," Celeste said, her voice growing stronger with each word, "has shown me what we truly lost. Not just the ability to reproduce, but the ability to love without condition, to sacrifice for another's happiness, to find joy in simple pleasures and strength in vulnerability." "Pretty words," Corvain sneered, "but words will not save our people. Only action will. Only taking what we need from these humans before they spread like a plague across the galaxy." "You would make us parasites," Celeste countered. "But I have found a better way. Through willing partnership, through genuine connection, we can restore ourselves without destroying another species." Corvain's eyes flicked to Marcus, and the human felt a chill that went deeper than winter cold. "Prove it," the alien hunter said. "Show me this miracle connection you claim to have found." Celeste looked back at Marcus, her expression asking a question he understood without words. This was their moment of truth, the point where they either stood together or fell apart. Marcus met her gaze and nodded, pouring every ounce of love and trust he possessed into that simple gesture. Celeste turned back to her cousin, her skin beginning to glow with steady radiance. "Very well. But know this, Corvain. What you are about to witness will change everything." The hunter's gambit Celeste stepped forward, her bioluminescence building to a brilliant crescendo that filled the cabin with ethereal light. Marcus felt the pull of their connection like gravity, drawing him to her side despite the armed hunters surrounding them. When he took her hand, the light exploded outward in waves of pure energy that sent Corvain and his warriors stumbling backward. "Impossible," Corvain breathed, his dark eyes wide with shock. "The resonance, it's pure, uncorrupted." But his amazement quickly turned to rage. "It doesn't matter," he snarled, raising a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. "One successful. Pairing means nothing if the process requires willing cooperation. Humans are too chaotic, too unpredictable. We need thousands of them, and we need them compliant." "You're wrong," Marcus said, finding his voice despite the terror clawing at his throat. "You're looking at this all wrong. You think you need to conquer us, but what you really need is to understand us." Corvain's laugh was cruel. "Understand you? You are barely evolved primates who discovered fire yesterday in cosmic terms. Could you possibly teach beings who sailed between stars before your son was born?" Marcus felt Celeste's hand squeeze his, drawing strength from their connection. "We could teach you what you've forgotten. How to feel, how to hope, how to love something more than your own survival." "Love," Corvain spat. "A chemical reaction designed to ensure genetic continuation. We evolved beyond such crude motivations eons ago. And look where that evolution brought you," Marcus shot back, surprised by his own boldness. "To the brink of extinction, desperately hunting other species for the very thing you threw away?" For a moment, something flickered across Corvain's features. Uncertainty? Regret? But it vanished as quickly as it had appeared, replaced by cold determination. "Enough philosophy, you will both come with us. Female will be studied and replicated. The male will serve as a test subject for our research." The hunters raised their weapons, but Celeste stepped in front of Marcus, her light flaring defensively. "I will not allow you to harm him." "Then you will die together," Corvain replied coldly. A romantic gesture, but ultimately pointless. The energy weapons began to charge with an ominous whine, but before they could fire, the cabin wall exploded. Outward. Marcus grabbed Celeste and dove through the hole, rolling into the forest beyond as energy beams seared the air above their heads. "This way," Marcus gasped, pulling her toward a rocky outcropping he remembered from childhood explorations. Behind them, Corvain's voice roared commands in the alien language, and heavy footsteps crashed through the underbrush in pursuit. They ran through the pre-dawn darkness, Marcus's intimate knowledge of the terrain giving them precious seconds of advantage. Celeste matched his pace effortlessly, her bare feet finding purchase on surfaces that would have sent him tumbling. Her hand in his provided an anchor point of warmth and connection that kept him focused despite the terror. The rocky outcropping concealed the entrance to a cave system Marcus had discovered as a teenager. He pulled Celeste into the narrow opening just as energy beams began scorching the trees around them. The cave mouth was barely wide enough for them to squeeze through, but it opened into a larger chamber beyond. "They will find us eventually," Celeste whispered as they pressed deeper into the limestone cavern. "Corvain is a skilled tracker, and my people can sense energy signatures across great distances." Marcus fumbled in his pocket for the small flashlight he always carried, its beam revealing a cavern that stretched further than the light could reach. "Maybe, but these caves connect to an underground river system. If we can reach the water, we might be able to lose them." They moved through the twisting passages, Celeste's natural luminescence providing additional light when the flashlight beam grew to dim. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew fainter, but never disappeared entirely. "Marcus," Celeste said suddenly, stopping in a chamber where multiple passages branched off in different directions. "There is something you must know. Our joining. Last night, ... it created more than just emotional connection." He turned to face her, seeing something new in her expression. "What do you mean, I am with child?" she said simply. "Our child. The first new life my people have created in over a century." Marcus felt the world tilt around him. That's impossible. We've only known each other for one night." "People's gestation is different from yours," she explained, accelerated by the energy of true connection. "In 3 of your days, I will give birth to a being that is both human and etherny, the bridge between our species." The implications hit. him like a physical blow. That's why Corvain is so desperate to catch us. It's not just about studying our connection anymore. Celeste nodded gravely. He will want to possess our child, to use it as a template for forced reproduction. Cannot allow that to happen. Distant voices echoed through the cave system, growing. Closer? Marcus made a decision that surprised him with its clarity. Then we don't run anymore. We make our stand here. Marcus, they are warriors trained across millennia. Cannot hope to defeat them in battle. He cupped her face in his hands, looking deep into her cosmic eyes. Maybe not in battle. But you said it yourself. What they really need isn't conquest. It's understanding, love, connection. He pressed his forehead against hers. Trust me. Corvain's voice grew clearer in the tunnels behind them. Marcus and Celeste prepared for a confrontation that would determine not just their fate, but the future of two entire species. Unity of Two-World Scorvin emerged from the tunnel with two of his hunters, their weapons trained on the couple standing in the center of the cavern. But instead of cowering or pleading, Marcus and Celeste stood hand in hand, radiating a calm certainty that gave the alien warrior pause. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift, Corvain declared. Though something in his voice suggested the words felt hollow even to him. No, Marcus said simply. We won't surrender, and we won't run. But we will show you what you're really looking for. Before Corvain could respond, Celeste began to glow. But this time, the light was different. Softer, warmer, pulsing with a rhythm that seemed to echo heartbeats. Marcus felt their connection deepen, and suddenly he could sense not just Celeste's presence, but the tiny spark of new life growing within her. The sensation was overwhelming. Love, hope, potential, all wrapped into something so pure, it brought tears to his eyes. But more than that, he could feel Celeste's memories flowing into his consciousness. The desperate search across the galaxy, the slow dying of her people, the crushing weight of being possibly their last hope. And through their bond, he felt her experiencing his memories in return. Childhood summers at the cabin, the simple joy of fixing a broken engine, the quiet satisfaction of helping neighbors with their problems, the deep human capacity for finding meaning in small moments. The light from their joined consciousness expanded outward, filling the cavern with warmth that had nothing to do with temperature. Corvain staggered backward as the glow washed over him, his weapon clattering to the cave floor. Double quotes. What is this? He gasped, pressing his hands to his temples. This is what you've been searching for, Celeste said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated through stone and bone alike. Not just the ability to create life, but the will to nurture it, the capacity to love something more than your own existence. Corvain fell to his knees as the resonance intensified. For the first time in centuries, he felt something stir in, the empty places of his soul, wonder, joy, the simple, profound happiness of connection, freely given and gratefully received. I remember, he whispered, tears streaming down his angular features. I remember what it felt like to hope. Other hunters had lowered their weapons, their aggressive postures melting into something approaching reverence. Marcus realized that the light emanating from him and Celeste wasn't just illuminating the cavern, it was illuminating the hollowed-out places in alien hearts that had forgotten how to feel. This is why force will never work, Marcus said, his voice carrying new authority born of absolute certainty. You can't steal love. You can't harvest hope. You can only create them through genuine connection. Corvain looked up at them, his expression transformed. But our people, how can we save them? How can we learn to feel again when we have forgotten how? Celeste smiled, her free hand moving to rest on her belly where new life grew. The same way all beings learn to love, slowly, carefully, with patience and trust. Our child will be the first of many bridges between our peoples. It's not through conquest, but through choice. Over the following months, Marcus watched in wonder as Corvain proved himself capable of change he would never have thought possible. The former hunter became an ambassador working to prepare small groups of Etherni for careful contact with selected humans. Not everyone was ready on both sides. There were those who feared what they didn't understand, But slowly, carefully, connections began to form. A lonely astronomer found kinship with an Eterni scientist studying stellar formation. Grief-stricken, Widow discovered comfort in the presence of an Eterni who had lost their bonded partner centuries ago. A young artist learned to paint with light itself. Guided by an alien who remembered beauty from before the great dying began, Celeste gave birth under a canopy of stars, with Marcus holding her hand as their daughter emerged into the world. The child was beautiful beyond description, her skin shifting between human warmth and Eterni luminescence, her eyes holding depths that spoke of wisdom beyond her years. "What shall we call her?" Marcus asked, cradling the tiny form against his chest. Celeste smiled, her exhaustion overshadowed by overwhelming joy. "Nova," she said. "A star that brings new light to the darkness." As Marcus looked down at his daughter, the first of a new generation that would bridge two worlds, he understood that this was just the beginning. The universe was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered, species yet to meet, connections yet to be forged, and somewhere among the stars, dying civilizations looked toward Earth with new hope, knowing that humanity's greatest gift wasn't technology or strength, but the simple, profound ability to love without reservation. In the quiet moments before dawn, Celeste slept peacefully beside him, and Nova's tiny hand curled around his finger. Marcus marveled at the incredible journey that had brought them together. A crashed ship in the forest had become the first chapter in a story that would span galaxies and generations. The stars had never looked more beautiful or more full of promise.